Hi, I'm Miranda, and this is my project on Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15th, 1452, in Vinci, around the region of Florence, Italy. He was born out of wedlock to Florentine notary Ser Pier and a young peasant woman, Caterina. He was raised by his father and stepmothers. At 5, he moved to his father's family estate near Vinci and lived with his uncle and grandparents. As a young boy, he received little formal education beyond reading, writing, and mathematics. Around the age of 14, Da Vinci began a lengthy apprenticeship with the noted artist Andrea del Verrocchio in Florence. He learned a wide breadth of technical skills, including metalworking, leather arts, carpentry, drawing, painting, and sculpting. At age 20, he qualified for membership as a master artist in Florence's Guild of St. Luke and got his own workshop. He studied the laws of science and nature, which greatly influenced his work as an artist. Some of his occupations included artist, mathematician, inventor, and writer. One of his earliest works was a pen and ink drawing of the landscape of the Arno Valley in 1473. In 1482, Da Vinci sent a letter to the future Duke of Milan that was barely mentioned his considerable talents as an artist. Instead, the letter focused on his skills as a military engineer. Da Vinci sketched war machines such as war chariots and armored tanks. After receiving the letter, Ludovico brought Da Vinci to Milan for the next 17 years, where he painted the Virgin on the Rocks and the Last Supper. Virgin of the Rocks was started in 1483. Two versions of this painting exist, one in the Louvre at Paris and the second was held in the National Gallery in London. Both of the paintings were originally oil on panel, but the Louvre version has been transferred to canvas. Two of the most significant differences is in the gaze and the right hand of the angel. Right there. Both of these paintings show the Madonna and Christ the Child with infant, John the Baptist, and an angel in a rocky setting, which gives the paintings their usual name. He started the painting in 1483. This painting demonstrated the use of terratio, a stark contrast between darkness and light that gave three-dimensionality to his figures, and also sfumato, a technique which subtle gradations rather than strict borders infused paintings with a softer, smokier. The Virgin of the Rocks was commissioned by the Franciscan Confraternity in the Church of San Francisco Grande. Leonardo was assisted by two local artists, the Priest brothers. Their task was to create an altarpiece for the recently completed chapel, dedicated to the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Mary. The Priest brothers completed two side panels while Da Vinci painted the center panel. Shortly after the altarpiece was finished, the artist became embroiled in a dispute about the payment, resulting in the artist threatening to sell the work to a rival bidder. It is likely that this dispute resulted in the second version of the Virgin of the Rocks, the one now in the National Gallery in London, and in fact it was the London Virgin that was placed in the chapel in San Francisco Grande. The original Paris version was quickly sold to an art lover soon after completion. In the Last Supper, Leonardo chose to capture the moment in which Jesus announces to the apostles that he knows one of them will betray him. This conception of the Last Supper forges a new path on the subject in which most artists do not attempt. Leonardo keeps Judas, the fourth figure to the left in the painting, unlike other paintings of the Last Supper at that time. Judas's face is the only figure in the painting whose face is lost in the shadows. He started the painting in 1495 and took approximately 3 years to paint. It measures 15 by 29 feet. The whole painting still stands except for the lower central area because of construction of a doorway in 1653. Improper restoration of the painting caused further damage to the mural. It has now been stabilized with modern conservation techniques. In addition to having Da Vinci assist him with pageants and designing a dome for Milan's cathedral, the Duke of Milan tasked the artist with sculpting a 16-foot-tall bronze equestrian statue of his father and founder of the dynasty. Leonardo sculpted a life-size clay model of the statue, but the project was put on hold when the war with France required bronze to be used for casting cannons, not sculptures. After French forces overran Milan in 1499 and shot the clay model to pieces, Da Vinci fled the city along with the Duke and the Savoy family. He returned to Florence in 1503, where he painted the Mona Lisa, which is quite possibly his most well-known painting. The half-portrait technique is derived from his sfumato style. It measures 21 by 31 inches. The painting was stolen in August 1911 from the walls of the Louvre and was not recovered until December 1913. It now hangs in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, secured behind a panel of bulletproof glass, and is referred to as a priceless treasure. Beyond the art, Da Vinci filled notebooks with writings about his observations on mainly 4 topics: painting, architecture, mechanics, and human anatomy. One of his notebooks contains plans for a 65-foot mechanical bat, practically a flying machine. Another contains studies of human anatomy. His studies brought new understandings of his time and to a wider audience range. These are some of his sketches. After declining French ruler Francis I's offer of the title Premier Painter and Engineer and Architect to the King, in which he would paint at his leisure, he left Italy for the last time in 1516. Leonardo died on May 2nd, 1519, in Amboise, France, at the age of 67. His gravesite is lost due to the French Revolution destroying the church at which he was buried, the Palace Church of St. Florentine.
Leonardo da Vinci is well renowned for his expertise in a variety of subjects, including painting, sculpting, engineering, geology, botany, mathematics, and various other disciplines within the artistic and scientific realms. Leonardo was born out of wedlock to a respected Florentine businessman and a peasant woman in Vinci, Italy, hence the name Da Vinci, meaning of Vinci. As a young teenager, Da Vinci became the apprentice of an artist in Florence known as Verrocchio. A 16th century biographer of Renaissance painters claimed that Da Vinci's contribution to his master's painting, The Baptism of Christ, was so profound that Verrocchio abandoned his paintbrush and never painted again. Da Vinci's earliest known work was a drawing of the Arno Valley from the year 1473. One of Da Vinci's first independent works was the Adoration of the Magi, a painting commissioned by the monks of the San Donato a Scopeta. It was never completed. In the late 15th century, Da Vinci spent nearly 20 years in Milan, where he was commissioned by the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception to paint the Virgin of the Rocks, and by the monastery of Santa Maria del Grazie to paint the Last Supper. Da Vinci was employed on a variety of different projects by Ludovico il Moro, Duke of Milan, including designs for Milan's cathedral dome and a model for an enormous equestrian monument to Francesco Sforza, Ludovico's predecessor. After the start of the Second Italian War in 1499, Da Vinci fled to Venice, and then back to Florence, where he created the Virgin and the Child with St. Anne and St. John the Baptist. Da Vinci became an engineering and architectural advisor to Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, by presenting him with a map and town plan of Imola, Borgia's fortification. Some of Da Vinci's other works include the famed small portrait known as the Mona Lisa. Completed in the early 16th century, the Mona Lisa was purchased by Francis I of France, and is on permanent display at the Musée du Louvre in Paris. One of the great innovations of this work is the relaxed three-quarter pose of the subject. The subject's enigmatic smile and the pyramidal composition of the portrait were also Da Vinci's innovations. Da Vinci's technique of layering translucent layers of colour in order to create subtle depth, volume and form lent to a realism that was unparalleled at the time. Da Vinci's studies in science and engineering are as profound and ingenious as his artistic work. The Vitruvian Man, pen and ink on paper, depicts a male figure and is based on ideal human proportions as described by the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius. His notes and drawings include studies of human anatomy and dissection, animals, plants, rock formations, and even concepts for war machines similar to tanks, as well as a drawing of a flying machine. Leonardo died in 1519. As his life's work continues to dazzle and inspire millions, Leonardo da Vinci will always be known as the original Renaissance man.